Grace. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I gotta admit, it is a little somber, and if some of us seem a little somber, it's because it's the day after a terrible shooting in Boulder, and I want us to at least acknowledge those lives lost and the people who are impacted and the families that have to endure now losing somebody, not during a pandemic, but during an epidemic, and that epidemic being gun violence again, and right here again in our state. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that, and all of us, on behalf of all of us here in the city and on this panel and our partners, we just want to extend our condolences, and not just thoughts and prayers, but policy and change. This has to happen, right? We fight for folks to be able to live in this city, and the key word is live. With that, our definitely our condolences, heartfelt condolences to our sister city of Boulder, and the community and the people who are suffering. I want to also welcome everybody. This is yet another town hall that we are having now that folks are becoming vaccinated, and life is starting to come back to our offices, to our communities. We want to make sure that we continue to have a strategy that is comprehensive, that is preemptive, and that is prepared for that return. And also because there's going to be a lot of different changes in policy that we're going to start seeing that may impact with foreclosures now possibly coming back, with eviction moratoriums starting to see out their final days. We have made sure that we are doing everything possible to prepare for those scenarios. We understand that it's not just foreclosures or evictions or anything else that impacts families in our city, but it's also a symptom. It's not just those things, but they're also symptoms of the same household that may have necessity for financial empowerment, for financial planning, for financial strategies on how to stay afloat. We've made it through the pandemic, some people by the skin of their teeth, and some families are barely hanging on by a thread. So we want to make sure that you can use this town hall to ask questions, to get information. And also, this is being recorded, and we are going to have this in our archives on our website and on Facebook at Denver Clerk and Recorder, to make sure that you have access to that. Anything else, we're going to provide information and phone numbers and contact information for everybody to contact should they need. If you live in another county and you don't live in Denver, don't worry. We got you. We'll make sure you're steered in the right direction in your county. And a lot of our partners actually serve other counties as well too. So with that, I want to welcome everybody. Like I said, this town hall is being recorded. I want to introduce a couple of our speakers. I'm going to welcome back Charlotte for our one of our experts with the Denver Housing Authority and our partner. I want to recognize my Chief Deputy Public Trustee and new daddy again, John Davies, for participating and being available as well too. We'll be available for questions. I also wanted to let you know that this is a series of town halls like I did earlier, and I'm sorry I'm a little discombobulated and just trying to, like everybody else, process and move forward. So this won't be the only one. We're going to have some more town halls that are going to be coming up, one in Spanish, one in Vietnamese, to make sure that everybody has access to the same services, no matter the language you speak. With that, I want to introduce our first presenter, and this is somebody who I've come to know, somebody I've come to respect, and in an organization that has served Southwest Denver for quite a while, and I want to introduce Lance Quinella. Am I pronouncing your name right, Lance?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
You have a whole pass
I
dedicated.
do. I have a
Yeah,
Guanella Pass near
Quinella
Georgetown.
Pass. There you
Yep.
go.
Yep.
So I want to introduce Lance. He's a certified housing counselor from Southwest Improvement Council. That's SWIC, 1000 South Lowell Boulevard in the on the border of the Marley and Westwood neighborhood. He's been in the real estate industry for 20 years as an agent, a property manager, and now a housing counselor. He's been a housing counselor with SWIC for since 2012. Yep, that's right. It's been that long, and became a HUD certified counselor in 2019. Lance is a Colorado native, born and raised in Metro Denver, and attended college at Colorado State in Fort Collins. How unfortunate is that? I am a Colorado buff, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Good
Rams.
Lord. Where'd you go to high school at least? Tell me.
Littleton High School.
Littleton High School. All right.
Yep.
Little saving grace there by a cliff right there, man. He's been a homeowner in Athmar Park since 2007 and has seen homes appreciate over $200,000 since he purchased his bungalow 14 years ago, raising concerns about affordability and access to ownership. And I think a lot of us in Denver have seen that change, such a rapid change. Some people who have bought their homes for 60,000, sometimes 90,000, and in 10 years see that sucker pop up to 400, right? So it's really, really, really important that you hear from him. So do you want, I think I got discombobulated again. I am so sorry. I also wanted to just make sure that all of you are out there, for a full list of our events, you can go to denverclerkandrecorder.org, and then you can make sure that you have the information you need. Some of the information in these slides we post. The other person who I want to introduce, well, actually, let's go with you now that I've introduced you, and the floor is yours, or the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Clerk Lopez. So we're going to go ahead and get started on my portion of this presentation, and it's on financial strategies when in default on your mortgage and or homeowners association. So if you are behind on your mortgage or your homeowners association, what should you do and what should you pay? So the first thing you should immediately do is contact your lender and your homeowners association right away and let them know about what your hardship is, okay? And we're going to start off with the homeowners association. So if you reach out to your homeowners association, as soon as you start to fall behind, or maybe you might be a payment or two behind, they may be willing to put you on a payment plan right away at that point. Again, I say may, but I'm hoping that they will put you on a payment plan so that you can get caught back up on your homeowners association. But the worst thing you can do, your homeowners association fees, but the worst thing you can do is not respond to any communication from your lender or from your homeowners association, because the HOA could decide to file for a foreclosure if they decide that you've gotten too far behind on your delinquency. And they can do so. An HOA has the power to foreclose on your home, and they can do so through a lawsuit. So you don't want that to happen. So the best thing you can do on your HOA payments, if you fall behind on your HOA fees, is reach out to them and see if they can put you on a payment plan. And then the other step is, if you're behind on your mortgage, reach out to your lender and let them know what your hardship is. Keep in mind, it does need to be a provable hardship. So for example, if you had the unfortunate situation where you lost your job due to layoffs, be sure to save your severance letter, because that's going to be very, very important moving forward, determining what type of program that the lender might be able to offer you. That is your proof right there that you've had a hardship, is that severance letter. You could also, if it's a medical, you could also maybe get a letter from your doctor stating what the medical situation was. But anything that's provable, you should be able to move forward and apply for some type of assistance through your mortgage company or your lender. So open communication now, that is key. Opening up communication right away as you start to fall behind. And don't let it get to the point where you're 90 days behind and then 120 days behind. And then all of a sudden they are filing for foreclosure on your property. And in that case, you know, reach out to a housing counselor agency right away and see what programs that we can help you get back on track with. So the next step is to consult with your HUD-approved certified housing counselor to know and learn all of your options that could be available. Shortly, we're going to provide you a list and contact information for all the housing counseling agencies that are in the city and county of Denver. So we'll be providing that information to you. So consult with your HUD-approved housing counselor, learn all of your options, because there are a ton of options available out there. And for a homeowner that's in distress, trying to learn what all these options mean can be very stressful. So reaching out to a housing counselor so that we can help you work through the different options that could become available to you so that you can understand what might be your best step moving forward. So it may be a situation where you could get approved for a forbearance. So forbearance is where they're going to possibly reduce your payment down for a period of time until you can get back up on your feet. They may also look at modifying the loan if you, again, can show that you have a provable hardship. And a modification is going to happen when they are going to change the terms of the original mortgage agreement so that they can make it affordable for you. That could mean maybe changing the interest rate. It could be maybe changing the terms of the loan. There's a variety of things that they could look at to try to make it affordable for you. And then also there's a possibility that they could put you on a payment plan, just like your homeowners association might do. So what they're going to do with a payment plan, though, is they're going to take a portion of the past due amount and spread it out over time for you. So that will mean that they'll be adding that past due amount over time onto your regular monthly mortgage payment until you're caught back up. So that's another option where you might be able to get onto a payment plan in that case. You also, when you're meeting with your certified housing counselor, you're going to review your budget. We're going to help you review your budget, and we're going to help you prioritize your expenses. Because the bottom line is now you're going to be looking at an emergency budget while you're behind on your payments, HOA or mortgage. And an emergency budget is going to look like, okay, can I go to Starbucks still? Well, you might be able to go to Starbucks every now and then, but you might have to cut back on how many times you can go to Starbucks. Or going out to eat, you may have to cut back on how many times you can go out to eat at night. Netflix, cable bill might have to be cut back until you can get back up on your feet and start making your mortgage payment once again. So this is an emergency budget, and you're going to have to prioritize your expenses. I don't know why I always have a problem with that word. And also, you want to become familiar with the estimated amount that is past due. So that includes, of course, the back payments that are past due, the late fees that have been administered because you missed some payments, other expenses, which could possibly include, if you end up having a filing of foreclosure on your property, you're going to have to pay that foreclosure filing fee because the lender expects the homeowner to pay that. So that's another expense to be prepared for. And that could be attached to your delinquency amount. So you need to know what your estimated amount is due moving forward. And also keep in mind that's good for 30 days. So if another 30 days has gone by, then that's going to change because you're another month past due. So try to work on getting caught back, getting an application sent in with help through your housing counseling agency during that 30-day period before another month goes by. So what is the housing counselor going to help you do? So we're going to sit you down. Well, maybe I'll probably have to meet over the Zoom call now in these cases or talk over the phone with you. But previously, I used to be able to sit you down and talk in front of you on a table in our office. But now we got to do a phone call or a Zoom call. But in either case, we can still help you determine, you know, what your emergency budget's going to look like. So the first step is determine what income is coming in. And basically what I'm going to request from you is you're probably going to have to send me your pay stubs so I can view those pay stubs. I'll have them, of course, sent securely to me so that I can view those pay stubs and determine what your income looks like. And then from there, I'm going to work on trying to find out what your housing ratio is, because you need to know what your housing ratio is moving forward. It's a very important formula as you're starting to apply for your mortgage assistance. So a housing ratio is comparing your gross income to what your current monthly payment is. So you're going to want to know what that housing ratio is, and we're going to help you determine that. So that's on the income side. Now we move over to the critical needs. So as we're doing this emergency budget, it's important to know what are the critical needs that you're going to put into your budget. Of course, food is going to be the first one. Are there any medical expenses that you're going to have? What about utilities? You're going to have to make sure you try to pay your utility bills on time, and other items that we will work with you directly to determine what critical needs are. But then we're also going to have to start eliminating some expenses for you. And this is based off of your own determination on how you want to plan your budget. But we're there to help you with the advice. So it could be, you know, stopping again at stopping the Starbucks habit. Going out to eat may have to come to a conclusion for a little while, and Netflix or cable bill might have to be cut back until you can get back up on your feet again, and then maybe start slowly adding those back into your budget again. You also want to look at making minimal payments if you can on other items. So like your creditors, work with your creditors to determine what minimal payments you can make. If you have student loans, of course, if you have a federal student loan, you may already be on a forbearance program, but if you're not, contact your particular servicer for your student loan and ask to be put on a forbearance. So that could mean that you don't have to make any payments during that forbearance time. You may have to make a small payment, but at least that will help you get back on track. And after all is said and done, after you subtract all your expenses from your net income, then how much money do you have left over? If you have some money left over, try to put it aside at this point, because there's a possibility that you may get approved for a modification. And there's a variety of different things that can happen in that case. I had one particular client that had a conventional private investor loan. This private investor asked for her to put down a down payment in order to start her modification. So luckily, she had the money set aside to do that, and she was able to get started. She got her loan modified, and we're currently working on keeping an eye on, because it just recently happened about 4 weeks ago, keeping an eye on when the foreclosure is going to be withdrawn. So she had the money to set aside to make that payment. But also you have to consider, if you do get a modification, you could be offered what they call a trial plan offer. Trial plan offer is making 3 payments, and you need to have that money set aside so that you can make those 3 payments. If you miss one of those 3 payments, they're going to withdraw that modification offer. So you want to make all 3 of those payments, and then after that 3rd payment is made, hopefully at that time the lender can move forward and get the loan modified for you. We'll send in the modification paperwork for you. We'll make sure we work with you to make sure everything gets sent in correctly. And then also just keeping a close eye on making sure that the foreclosure gets withdrawn. But setting aside money, if you have it left over, is very critical if you have a modification offer coming forward. Next slide there. So for financial information that we're going to look for in order to help our clients. One of the things we're going to look for, of course, is your pay stubs. So at least 30 days of pay stubs, and they need to have your employer's information on that pay stub. It needs to have year-to-date pay on there, so that the lender and underwriter can verify everything for your payment, what you're making for your income. If you receive unemployment benefits, you need to provide an award letter for your unemployment. And in that case, you're probably going to be put on a forbearance at that time. If you have a fixed income, providing an award letter for your Social Security or an award letter for your pension, that's all going to be income that we're going to have to collect and proof that you have that income. In addition, you're going to need some bank statements to provide to us, most likely 2 months of bank statements, and all pages included so that the underwriter can review all of those pages. If there's a missing page, they will reject it and tell you to send in another bank statement. So you don't want any missing pages. You also want to know what your utility expenses are going to be. Very important moving forward with your water expenses, phone expenses, and of course, like your Excel energy bill. What are your expenses moving forward? Have your current mortgage statement ready for us, as well as other housing statements. So what are other housing statements? So you may have a home equity line of credit. You may have a HELOC. You also may have just a home equity loan. Or also it could be a statement from your homeowners association. We need all of those so that we can put together that information for your mortgage company. And you need to know your overall expenses. You know, what are your if you have pets, what are your pet food expenses? What are your insurance expenses if it's coming out of pocket for life insurance or medical insurance? What's your car insurance payments going to be? And typically what you expend on food expenses and other utilities. So we're certainly going to need to know that. So as we put all that together, then we can get that information sent off to the mortgage company. And the key to once the information is sent off to the mortgage company is to do constant follow-up with them. There may be missing documents out there, and if they need those documents by a deadline, we need to get them to them within a deadline. Then we'll get the documents off to them. If everything is completed, then they'll send it to the underwriter, and then that's where we keep our fingers crossed and hope that you get some kind of a modification or mortgage assistance with your loan. So that's going to conclude my information as what it looks like if you are working with a housing counselor, and what the financial information you're going to need is, and what your budget should look like, going from a regular budget to what's called an emergency budget until we can get you back on track.
Thank you, Lance. That's excellent. Now, I want to draw folks' attention to the screen. There are a lot of Denver HUD approved counseling agencies. Now, these are agencies that you can call to talk to folks like Lance, who can get you through some of these situations. But I think it's going to be important for everybody to know that some of the things that Lance just discussed, some of these documents, mortgage statements, things like that, be prepared. Look those up, find them, and that way, when you talk to your housing counselor, you have the most recent information and prepared. Lance, really quickly, a lot of folks, they don't like to call the lender or the mortgage company or anybody else, a little hesitant. And I've been in this boat before. I've been a little freaked out in the past to let them know that I was late. I'm not trying to let them know that I have a hard time paying the payment for this month. They may, look poorly at me for that. What's been your experience with folks that are a little bit gun shy about that situation?
In that particular case, as a housing counseling agency, I mean, I completely understand where people are scared to death. I mean, they're so scared sometimes that they don't even want to open their mail and look at what's going on there. So in that case, the housing counseling agency can, reach out to the mortgage company as well to see, what the situation looks like, and then we can communicate that with our particular clients. So hopefully that helps make it like a little bit more of a soft communication, I guess, so to speak, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
so that it's not as stressful on the homeowner.
Okay, so see that, folks. Make sure that uh, you contact one of these agencies. These are nonprofits. These are folks that are experts, and they'll help you through that. If you are, or if you just have questions, if you're feeling like that money's dwindling down that you saved, and you're starting, you haven't got that letter yet, and you're not there yet, but if you're barely cutting it and you're barely got some dough in the bank after last month, make sure you talk to Lance anyway, or any one of these folks anyway, because they can help you with some strategies on how to replenish that bank account that's been hit hard during this pandemic. So thank you, Lance. I really appreciate it. Your expertise is shining here.
Thank you so
The other,
much.
it's just too bad about the whole CSU thing, man. I mean, really got potential. It's just rival. We got to do the rivalry thing here.
Sorry about that. You had to know about it eventually, right?
Oh yeah, the next person that we have is a frequent flyer, but he's also a expert and a partner. We are glad to partner with folks like the Denver Housing Authority and the Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection, otherwise known as OFEP, the best uh, the best acronym in the world. Very memorable. Al Tafoya is going to talk a little bit about financial empowerment and protection. And he's going to talk about some financial strategies on how to sustain a mortgage and the other essential needs. I can go into his background. I could just tell you that the dude is a great human being, a leader. He understands what it's like for families that are struggling right now. He's been part of human services components in this city, fatherhood programs, temporary assistance, childcare assistance, all that stuff, workforce. He's your guy. So, Al, Mr. Tafoya, take it away.
Thank you, Clerk Lopez. The Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection, OFEP, OFEP, an acronym so nice you got to say it twice, right, Paul?
Yes, it sounds like the what you call the mustache on your upper lip, the OFEP.
Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for your time this evening. I'm going to walk you through some things. So, our partners at the housing agencies, their primary goal is to help you keep your home and all the equity that is in there. Our goal is to help you sustain that home once you've gone through a foreclosure process, before, if at all possible. But first step, once you talk to your counselor, your HUD certified counselor on your foreclosure issues, feel free to give us a call during that period or shortly after. The information is located right here, 720-944-2498 or fec@denvergov.org. Number two, work with your financially certified coach to develop a monthly budget strategy to meet all your financial obligations while prioritizing your mortgage. Your mortgage is your priority. Everything else is secondary, because that's where your equity is at. That's where your future savings will be. And so, you want to prioritize your home and your mortgage payment. Thirdly, review your budget strategy with your financial coach and prioritize all your expenses. And when I mean all your expenses, I mean all your expenses. Lance did an excellent job of identifying many of those expenses on your financial side. On your revenue side, do you get paid weekly? Do you get paid bi-weekly? Do you get paid every 2 weeks, which means you have 26 payments in the year? And then, those odd payments that you got to make once a year, like renew your license plates, that Starbucks or whatever it is that you like for entertainment. You got to budget everything and get it all down on paper, but we'll get into that a little bit here. Be aware of what's on your credit report to ensure everything is covered and to ensure that there are no derogatory items on your credit report that don't belong to you or were misrepresented on your report, because sometimes you pay some of those bills off and they don't pull it off your credit report and it's impacting your credit score. And so, keep that in mind, and I'll walk you through that here in a second. Next slide, please. So as indicated earlier, we want to take a look at your income, right? Whether you're receiving unemployment comp, an employment salary, if you recently received any stimulus payments, if you're going to get a tax return, and any other income that you might generate. You want to make sure that that's all accounted for. We'll sit down with you on a budget spreadsheet to make sure we got everything covered on the income side. Critical needs, again, your mortgage is your priority. Your health, you know, is still a priority, but we have to make sure our mortgage is paid, our medicals is taken care of, utilities and food. I learned the other day that if you recently were, laid off or lost your job, that you can apply for Medicaid, um, and you would be eligible if you don't have any income coming in. And life happens, and all it takes is one medical emergency, and you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt with some financial bills if you don't have some medical insurance to cover you. And so keep that in mind. Utilities during this period, one of the things that we also do in the OFEP is we have navigators, and so they can refer you to resources to help you pay your utilities and potentially help you apply for food assistance and or let you know where the food banks are. Because when we're talking, Lance said an emergency budget, it's an emergency. And so we're going to have to trim back a little bit on our spending and see what we can do to augment our budgets with some of the public assistance programming, especially if you're struggling with full-time employment. And so let's take a look at that. Other creditors, and so student debt, Lance talked about that. You may have a deferral on that. What are you doing with those dollars right now? Are you saving them, or are you utilizing those funds to pay higher interest creditors? That's some things that we're communicating with our customers right now. Auto debt, credit cards, got to take a look at all, not just the balance owing. You want to look at the term, you want to look at the interest rate on each of those, which one has the highest rate. In some instances, you may be eligible to refinance your car, lower your monthly payment, increase your revenue that way, or lower your interest rate as well, depending, and your payment. And so, there's a lot to consider and a lot to look at. And maybe, that's what we're here for, to help you develop that strategy so that you can maintain your home and all your essential needs and still move forward and maintain the equity in your home. Savings, we all think of bank savings. Depending on the type of retirement plan you have, there may be an opportunity to borrow against that, like a 401k. There are some life insurance policies, variable life insurance, where they're investing in the market as well. You're able to borrow against that. That's your money, whether it's a retirement or a life insurance policy. Talk to your vendors and ask them if you're eligible. And you're borrowing your own money, and typically you're going to be able to borrow it at a really low rate, 2 to 3%, in my experience. And so maybe that's something you may want to consider as part of your debt consolidation process. And so let's go ahead and skip to the next slide. So what you can expect from a financial coach with OFEP: a budget strategy, income versus debts. We'll sit down with you. We'll help you identify all your income and all your debts and prioritize those debts. Secondly, we do pull a soft credit report when we sit down with you so that you can review your credit report alongside our coach and go line by line, each item, make sure that you're aware, who that creditor is, how much is owed, and so on and so forth. And so we do a full analysis so that you guys can take a look at your credit report and know, exactly what's on there. Because sometimes you pay off a bill and they never report it as a positive back to the credit bureau. That's a derogatory statement on your credit report that needs to be taken care of. And when you take care of those types of things on your credit report, it increases your credit score. Because one, it shows that you care enough about your credit score to make sure that it's accurate and that you took the time to file with the 3 agencies, credit bureau agencies, to remove those from your credit history. because those things are being reported every time you walk into a bank or into a department store or wherever you go to apply for credit. And so keep an eye on that. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. We'll sit with you side by side to make sure you fully understand it and how to move forward from that process. The third thing that we want to do is work with you on a livable wage. You know, one, we want to better understand, why was it that you weren't able to maintain your mortgage payment? Was it because that job you took didn't make as much money as the last job you had? You know, in this particular piece, we take a look at all your expenses and we add it all up, and then we add 30% to that, because payroll taxes right now averaging 31.1% of taxes that are coming out of your paycheck, whether it's weekly, biweekly, or monthly. And so, you know, we have to account for that too. And so, you know, I was taught, and we like to teach people, the best way to manage your budget is you got to increase your revenue or decrease your expenses, or a combination of both. And so, you know, what can you do to increase your revenue or decrease your expenses? Trimming, you know, here and there and getting rid of some of the nice little luxuries that we've got to afford previously. You know, right now is not that time. Right now is the time to maintain that roof over your head, and that investment, the biggest investment you're ever going to make, is your home. And so we're going to help you calculate what a livable wage looks like. So when you're targeting that next job or career, you make sure that you're getting paid enough to sustain your mortgage payment, your medical, your health, you know, life insurance, groceries, whatever it is, your car insurance, tags. We want to make sure that you make enough money so that you don't have to be stressing over it month to month until you start falling behind on your mortgage payments. And lastly, and as I communicated before, we have financial navigators who specialize in identifying all the organizations, whether it's federal, state, county, for-profit, nonprofit, who have benefits available to community members like you, like TRUA, tenant rent and utility assistance, the SNAP program, food assistance, child care assistance for your children. If you have to take on a job and you're unable to watch your children that are under the age of 12, you know, these are real scenarios and situations. And so let us know how we can support you. And who knows, you may be eligible for a program that you may not have been aware of before. Maybe it's childcare, because childcare is one of the most expensive programs that a parent will pay in their lifetime, besides college, I think, but childcare is probably pretty close. Let's go to the next slide. So options to increase your revenue. I wanted to put this on here because there's a lot of ways to increase your revenue, right? First, find a job that pays a livable wage. That's the quickest, easiest way to help you meet your situation. You know, sometimes, and my parents did it as I was growing up. I did it as a young man, and I've done it as a father. I've had to take on a part-time job to make sure that I make ends meet, to make all my bills and feed my children and take care of the family. And so, you know, set your pride aside. If you need a part-time job, go get a part-time job, because that's what it's all about, right? And work towards getting a livable wage job so you don't have to take on part-time jobs.
Amen.
Or start your own business. I've known folks that you know, I work with, or, you know, I know in the community, they've started their businesses right now during this pandemic, and they're being very successful at it. And what they do, and the most important thing to do, whether it's a second job or a business, what are you passionate about? What do you like to do? You know, do you like to fix houses, do plumbing? Do you like to paint? Do you like to work on cars? You know, what do you like to bake cupcakes or do party planning? Whatever it is, you know, there's a lot of little niche industries out there that people are making good money for doing what they love to do. And that way it doesn't feel like a second job. And in fact, a good friend of mine, that's their primary job now. They're making more money than when they were working for their primary boss. And so, you know, there's opportunity out there. the glass is half empty or half full. It's all state of mind. Just know that there's opportunities. You just have to take that first step. And we can help support you with that small business as well, because we work with NewSed in the community as well as Mikasa, and they help individuals start up and ramp up their small businesses. And so they'll get a hold of us if that's something you're interested in. Options to decrease your debt: pay down high credit, and no particular order. I put these on here, right? As you do your assessment, logic would say pay down your highest interest rate credit card. That's not the one you want to be using right now. Pay that down, pay it off, and move on. Debt consolidation, the second mortgage, if eligible. It's an option, something you may want to leverage, a second mortgage on your home. It's possible. However, it used to be you can get a tax write-off from your second mortgage. Not anymore. You no longer get a tax write-off on your second mortgage. I would like to communicate that Bank on Denver, one of our partner organizations in the community, they just started their negotiation debt consolidation program. That means if some of this is just really, got you stressed and you feel like you dug yourself a pretty deep hole and don't know how to get out, we actually have an organization that'll sit with you and sit down and call all your creditors alongside with you to negotiate some of those high interest debts that you have and create a payment plan. And sometimes even ask to waive some of that, as some of the money that's owed is interest that's been calculating on your account. And so Bank on Denver, a negotiate debt consolidation program that can be seen at bankondenver.com. But contact us at our office and we'll get you in touch with that individual. Some people, you get in your tax return, you got a stimulus payment, you're sitting on money right now. You're like, burning, what am I going to do? The quickest way to increase your immediate income would be if you owe a few thousand on your car, pay it off. Pay it off, increase your monthly revenue by $350 or $250, whatever your payment is. And so those are some ideas that we can sit down and strategize with you so that you can help sustain and keep your home and stay, live, and work in Denver. Next slide, please. Again, here's our contact information. Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection, OFEP, OFEP, 720-944-2498, and FEC@denvergov.org. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Brother Al. And I have to stress enough. I can't stress enough how important it is to give folks a call. And we have that contact information that's posted. There's some very good points here, right? And part of the takeaway is if you have the ability to pay an extra month of rent ahead of time, pay it. Don't use the stimmy for extra walk or for a TV or anything like that. Use that stimulus to pay down debt, pay off bills, or get ahead, because you just never know what's coming around the corner, right? When this time last year, a lot of people were out of work and they had no idea when they were going to go back, right? So think about that kind of preparedness and that kind of stability. There are a couple questions in the Zoom chat, and I want to make sure that folks have the opportunity to ask those questions, but I'm going to just make sure that you all have that opportunity. If we can go really quickly to that slide again, there we go. We just so folks know that are watching, we have a series of these slides that are coming up, or not slides, but foreclosure town halls that are coming up. We've had a few of them, but we want to get to our Vietnamese town hall that we're going to have. And that's going to be April 13th. On May 4th, we're going to have one in Espanol. And then we are going to have another one on the 25th of May. That's about fraud prevention, what to look out for. And then June 15th, foreclosure documents and paperwork to expect. And then we're going to wrap it up in July on bankruptcies and the 1, 2, 3s and what you can expect there too. So that's that. I'm going to go to our chat because our chat has some questions in it. This is from Betsy. And the question is to panelists, how often do loan modification requests get rejected? And if they get rejected, what are the common reasons they get rejected? Anybody?
So I'll go ahead and ask, and Lance chime in as well. Modification requests can get rejected as often as you submit a modification application. The common reasons why modification would get rejected is, one, largely, this happens unfortunately a lot, applications were not submitted properly. There might have been a document missing, or the document you submitted was out of date of the time frame they're looking at. Another reason for modification or denial is you may not be able to show or validate the hardship like Lance talked about earlier. You have to have reportable hardship. You have to have something to legitimize that there was a setback. So there are several reasons. And just remember, if you got denied, your housing counselor can assist you with assessing why you got denied, contact the lender on your behalf, be your advocate, and try and get back with the lender and submit a new modification if your circumstances have changed. So, and one thing I want to mention to everybody, that if you have fallen behind because of COVID-19, starting in March of last year, you should all be in touch with your lender no later. Well, you should always be in touch with them, but make sure you're in touch with them by March 31st so that they're opening up the door for any kind of COVID-19 forbearance options. So that's my input. Lance, you have some others information you want to provide?
Sure. Some other things I can think of on if there was a denial, there may be a possibility that you just have too much debt, and the underwriter decided that if they do offer you a modification, that you still are going to be struggling with your payment because you have too much debt. Another situation I can think of is maybe you don't have enough income at this time. That could lead to a denial. If that's the case, I mean, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Certainly working with a housing counselor is going to, continue to open up that communication with the lender. And like Charlotte said, if there is a change of circumstance where your income improves, then you can apply again and try to get that modification at that time. Like Charlotte mentioned, the change of circumstance. Maybe you paid down some of your debt, and that improved your debt to income ratios. So those are some options as to how you can improve, if you do get denied on a modification offer, how you can improve the chances the next time around.
The other one is, well, does anybody else have anything to add with that? No? Okay. Another question, are any of the services discussed in the presentation offered in languages other than English, and do you have to be a Denver resident? I can take the first part of that, and I'll kick it over to our partners. Hablamos diferentes idiomas, y si puedes hablarnos en español. We speak a lot of different languages. We have the capacity and the ability to help you no matter what language you speak. And we offer a lot of our services, especially in our office in the clerk and recorder and the office of the public trustee. We are able to help you with that. Also, I know over at SWIC, there's Spanish offered, Vietnamese, Westsider, that's a language, and then Northsider too. Alvin, are you Northsider? You appear like you might be borderline.
Yeah, I lived in the north side a little bit, south side, west
I
side.
I
I lived
figured
every
with
side
that
of town here.
I figured with that Denver accent, only some of us can pick it up. And then also Charlotte over at Denver Housing Authority has that capability as well too. So please, for information, please hit us up at denverclerkandrecorder.org, and then you can get those services there. To my Chief Deputy Public Trustee, John Davies, the languages that we have served folks in, what's our capability there?
Oh gosh. I mean, we've served people in English, obviously, Spanish, Russian. I think we even had one German couple come in. We've had some Vietnamese people that we've served. And even if it's not a language that we have capable here in our office, we do have access to a language helping sort of agency that we can, if we have an appointment ahead of time, we can get them on the call as well, or even have someone come down and help us with translation right there at our counter.
Yeah, oh, perfect. Let me ask you something. So ladies and gentlemen, this is John Davies, my longtime Chief Deputy Public Trustee, and new father again. Congratulations,
Thanks.
John. How does bankruptcy work with foreclosure?
Well, bankruptcy functions to kind of put a pause on foreclosure. And it does one of three things depending on where we are in the foreclosure process. And it all kind of revolves around the publications that we have to do. So we have to do a set of 5 publications. And if bankruptcy is filed before those 5 publications have run, when the bankruptcy comes, or I'm sorry, when the foreclosure file comes out from under bankruptcy protection, it'll have to be restarted in order to go all the way to auction. If the bankruptcy is filed after those publications have run, it won't have to be restarted, but it does give the borrower that grace period while the bankruptcy protection is in place to get their finances in order, maybe talk to Alvin or Charlotte and figure out what they need to do. And the last one, occasionally a bankruptcy is filed so close to the sale that we're not notified and we sell the property anyway. In those cases, that sale is void. The bankruptcy protection is still in place even if we do sell the property, and the sale is void when the bankruptcy protection comes, when the foreclosure file comes out from the bankruptcy protection. We'll have to republish a notice, and we'll have to send out a new notice through the mail and then set a new sale date.
Thank you for that. And foreclosure docs, from my understanding, are printed in 14 languages. So please don't let language or origin, I mean, if you live in Boulder or Adams County, or if you live in unincorporated Adams County, or if you're tuning in from, New Mexico, the land of red or green Christmas, right? You have an opportunity. You hit us up. It doesn't matter. Hit us up, and we will steer you in the right direction. You make sure that you tune in to our clerk and recorder website. We have a lot of these documents posted. We have these numbers posted. So you make sure you let us know where you live, and we will get you pointed in the right direction. We will do our best to help you. We are the city and county of Denver, but we don't turn our backs to our fellow residents and our fellow counties and states. So question, how can you help somebody find a job with a payable wage? I think this is a payable wage, a livable wage, right? So Al, I'm going to knock that over to you.
Yes, we work with workforce programming here in the city and county of Denver. There's a workforce center in every county and region, even the rural areas. There's workforce programming all over the state. Connecting Colorado is one of the first things that you want to do. In fact, if you've had to apply for unemployment comp benefit recently, you were probably required to sign in to Connecting Colorado, which is the database that tracks all the jobs that are available, that are posted by employers through the Connecting Colorado. And so the first step I would say is give us a call. Let's sit down and take a look at your finances, your revenue and your expenses, and let's make that calculation and say, In order to sustain the life that you're living right now, you need to make $20 to $22 an hour. You might be making $18 an hour and you're figuring out that you don't have enough money to get you to pay off all your bills on a monthly basis, and you're making minimum payments on everything. And so give us a call. It all starts with a conversation and a budget, and then we can calculate that livable wage. That livable wage is always based on your lifestyle. My budget's different than Lance's and different than Charlotte's and different than Paul's or John's. We all have a certain budget that we live within. What is yours? And we start there, and then we calculate what an hourly wage would look like for you. And we can even provide you some industry information on who's doing hiring and what ranges they pay. One thing we always used to say in workforce is get a job, keep a job, get a career. Because you need a career as, you know, life progresses, whether you go back to college or, you know, want to work in one of the industries in construction. We're here to help you. We can point you in the right direction.
We appreciate that. And I have to just underscore that. And there's a couple of other questions I want to get to, and then we'll let people go on their way, enjoy their evening, have dinner with their families and whatnot. You know, one of the things I think we keep highlighting is that livable wage. We understand that that's still an issue, and, you know, people are still trying to find that. We believe in a livable wage here in Denver. We want to make sure that you have access to that livable wage. There are a lot of different resources that you can go to. I have to really say that, you know, I really appreciate the hustle. A lot of us have been in that boat, right? And that's one thing that I think Al made a great point is put the pride aside, right? If you need to make it happen for that income, and you'll be surprised. I think there's a lot of different places in the Denver labor movement with unions, right? With the electrical workers union, with, you know, the plumbers union, with the pipe fitters, the sheet metal workers union. There's the trades, carpentry. There's all kinds of different stuff. You know, with there's a lot of opportunities in Denver as a public servant, right? With the state, there's just so many different opportunities out there that you get on that, and then I think it's going to be really, really, really helpful. As Tupac likes to say, and one of my favorite songs of his is, I love paying rent when the rent's due, right? So make sure you use that stimulus or any extra dough you have to make sure that rent is paid, so you, and those bills are paid, so you don't fall behind. There's one more question I want to make sure that we answer, and we only have a few minutes left, and folks, you know, Charlotte, John, anybody, if you want to chime in on this one. If it becomes clear that someone just can't manage the debt of their home, what kinds of resources are there for people who need transitional housing, like rental or something? Is it part of the counseling conversation?
Lance, you want to hit that? And I'll respond after.
Sure. So there's a really particular helpful website that's called coloradohousingsearch.com. It is a very dependable website in terms of finding a rental for transitional housing. Some other things that could be a possibility is if you decide to sell the house, maybe working with the realtor, and maybe you have enough proceeds where I have a particular client in this situation where it looks like they're going to have enough proceeds to probably not buy a house in Denver, but they're looking at maybe Southern Colorado, Pueblo, and they're retired, and it's a time for them to, and they're ready to move on from the house. So they're looking at that possibility.
So, you know, it is a part of the conversation when you meet with a HUD certified housing counselor, you know, what other options are there if it's not realistic for you to keep your home, to sustain home ownership on this property. And, you know, it may mean selling the property or returning it through a deed in lieu. And one thing I do want to remind folks, John, if I'm not saying this right, let me know, that in our market now, which is crazy in Colorado, you know, there's a lot of equity we have in our homes. So even if you end up getting foreclosed on, there is a chance that there could be excess proceeds from the foreclosure bid that could be sitting there for you. So if you do have to find yourself in foreclosure, think about checking with the public trustee's office and ask them, was there an excess of funds that could be returned to you? And, you know, always look for that, because you're going to need that money to transition your family out of the home into whatever that next living environment is, whether it's moving with families or, like Lance said, moving to another county, maybe in the state, or downsizing or whatever. So, so keep that in mind. But again, the HUD certified housing counselor talks about the emergency budget and talks about all our options as far as sustainability of your home, or what are some actions or steps to take if you end up not being able to afford to stay in there.
So for folks who live in city and county of Denver, Denver Human Services, on their website, they have a program called Emergency Assistance. And they also help with first month's rent and deposit. And they also there's other housing programs that they have underneath there as well. And so if you find yourself in that situation, there's also TRUA, tenant rent utility assistance program. And Charlotte, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there'll be additional funds in EHAP that helps with foreclosures as well as for rental assistance as well.
Yep, with EHAP, then there's a private funded program called MAP. There's an organization called Friends of Man, like Bank on Denver, that provides assistance for many different things. So between the HUD certified housing counselor and OFEP, the navigators, you will be hooked into many, many resources. Hopefully we can figure out which resources you will benefit from.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Charlotte, John, Al, our team at the Clerk and Recorder's Office, our engagement team. Thank you so much for this. Again, stay tuned. We have another series of town halls. This is going to go into July. We wanted, the whole purpose is to make sure that you have the information you need to make the best decision to prepare, as we start reanimating and reconstituting the city, our city services, and as things start coming online again, and hopefully coming out of this little recession that we've had from the pandemic, and making sure that you are in the best financial situation that you can be in. Again, hit us up, denverclerkandrecorder.org. Hit all our partners up. We have this list online for you to do and to give a call. So with that, thank you, Denver. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Have a great evening, and hold the family members tight. All right.
Night, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Congratulations, John.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.